In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Welcome, friends, to the 46th episode of Crime and Punishment, a legal podcast, not a political one. The official podcast of the Invictus Law Firm, PA, a criminal defense law firm in Orlando, Florida, the website for which is augustusinvictus.com, and that is me, yours truly, the host of this program. We are going to discuss today the landmark decision that has not even been published yet, officially. The decision in the Dobbs case that has been leaked in what appears to be an effort to completely stop it from being done. The biggest problem we have today is that my internet completely shut down while the intro song was going. So I'm going to have to reload that. But that gives me the opportunity to go live on Twitter. I've been meaning to figure this out for a long time, so we're going to try an experiment today while we're getting started. We're going to start your space. So if you are on Twitter, I'm at Emperor Invictus. I'm starting in 3, 2, 1, start your space. Let's get you set up. Go to app info. Well, that's not as immediate as I thought it was going to be. So, never mind that. Abort mission. No pun intended. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to post the newsletter and the viral style before I forget. Because I always forget if I don't do it right at the beginning. So one thing that did not shut down is YouTube. There is the newsletter. Here is the collection. And then we are going to go to the Politico article, which is how this was leaked. So, as I'm pulling this up, for those who don't know, and I don't know how you can live in America and not know, but the opinion Roe v. Wade is a United States Supreme Court opinion in a case back in 1972-73. I believe the opinion was published in 73. And this is how abortion came to be legalized in the United States. The Supreme Court, all white males at the time, for all those who think that men have no say over women's reproductive rights, it was all white males who decided this back in 1973. They decided that we just don't have any constitutional right to tell a woman about her constitutional right to murder her own child. To watch over her own health care or make her own health care decisions. Well, thankfully, the Supreme Court of today, I believe the most diverse court in United States history, has completely overturned that. I'm going to go straight to page 67 of the draft opinion to read the ruling, because let's start off with that, right? A lot of people like to talk about the opinion this, the opinion that, and these are the ramifications on the country, and nobody actually reads the bloody document. So we're going to start by reading the document and then get to all of the secondhand sources discussing its ramifications. So here's the final part. This is part 6. Page 67 of the opinion. It says, "We end this opinion where we began. Abortion presents a profound moral question. The Constitution does not prohibit the citizens of each state from regulating or prohibiting abortion. Roe and Casey arrogated that authority. We now overrule those decisions and return that authority to the people and their elected representatives." So if you watch the Tucker Carlson show, I honestly don't. I just don't watch shows, but I see clips every now and then. And I saw him talking about this, and he also made the point, no one ever actually reads the opinion. You have all of these news outlets just going crazy about how this is overturning Roe v. Wade and Casey, which enshrined abortion rights, and they're saying this, that, and the other, but they never actually read the opinion. They're saying that this is an affront to democracy. This is Tucker's take on it. This overturning of Roe v. Wade is an affront to democracy. This is tyranny. It's anti-democracy, and that's ridiculous. As Tucker points out, the entire opinion is based on the concept of letting people vote on this. And the entire point is Roe v. Wade completely took that right away from American citizens. And it said, no, abortion's legal. That's perfectly fine. And this all-white male court, by the way, I'm going to keep saying that, we have decided for the good of all 50 states that abortion is not something we can argue about. You don't get to pass laws. I believe in this opinion, if I recall correctly, it's stated, and it has pages and pages. The appendix A begins on page 68, right after the opinion ends. Appendix A contains statutes criminalizing abortion at all stages of pregnancy in the states existing in 1868. And just all the way through to the end, this appendix has all of the statutes in all of the states that outlawed abortion. And the District of Columbia, by the way. And then it goes into another list of states. Which list is this? Appendix B. Statutes criminalizing abortion at all stages in each of the territories that became states and in the District of Columbia. So it lists all of these places saying, look, all of these states had statutes in place that banned abortion, that criminalized abortion. And Roe v. Wade took this out of the hands of the state legislatures. It took the choice completely out of the hands of the people of the United States, and it put it in the Supreme Court. That's what he means when he says it arrogated that authority. The Supreme Court just took that authority and said, yeah, we're going to decide now that we believe that abortion is a right. And you no longer have the right as states, as American citizens, to enact laws prohibiting the murder of children. So Tucker, it turns out, is right. Believe it or not. He so often is. But he happens to be right. This entire opinion is based on that concept, that the Supreme Court took this out of the hands of the American people and made the law themselves. So that's why I think it's important to begin by reading the end of the opinion. Again, that is page 67. I'm going to post the Politico article in the chat here so that you can see it yourself. It has the entire article right there. You can read the entire thing. Excuse me, not the article. The article has within it the entire opinion, the draft opinion, overturning Roe v. Wade. Will you get, I'm reading the chat here, will you get compensation for being incarcerated for 2 months but being found innocent? I was actually incarcerated for 8 months. And yes, I absolutely will be compensated. But we're not talking about that on this program today. Today, we are going to keep it at a hard hour cutoff because we've got a lot of things to do today in terms of the family and the church. So we are just going to talk about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Audio out. Boy, I hope not. Is the audio out? If you can hear me, please do let me know, because that would be very bad if the audio is out. All right, so let's get to this article here. Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion rights, draft opinion shows. Quote, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, end quote. Justice Alito writes in an initial majority draft circulated inside the court. All right, everybody can hear me. Good, because I'm looking at my levels and it looks fine to me. Ulfric says, late to the party, but looking forward to your input today, Augustus. Well, thank you. No Name says, thanks, Augustus. Can hear you loud and clear. Didn't realize it was that long. Make them pay. Yes, sir. All right, so everybody says, I can hear you now. Very good. I'm sorry if you can't hear us, Justin, but that might be on your end, buddy. Sorry about that. So, I've posted the Politico article so you guys can follow along. More than that, I posted the Politico article so that you can see the opinion itself. Don't read other people's takes on it. Don't just read Fox News or CNN or The Intercept, which we will also get to. read the opinion yourself. The one good thing these people have done is they posted the opinion. Now, why did they post the opinion? I think you know why. They posted the opinion to stop it from being done. This was given to Politico by someone inside the Supreme Court. Absolute betrayal. This is unprecedented. And of course, the media comes out with, well, it's not really unprecedented because Roe v. Wade itself was given to a reporter and it came out on the newsstands hours before the Supreme Court published its opinion. Completely different, right? That was already decided. It was a done deal, and they gave it to the journalist to publish on the day the decision was coming out. This is clearly not that case. In this case, somebody inside the United States Supreme Court took this draft opinion and gave it to the press so that they could put pressure on the justices and stop them from doing it. This was a total act of sabotage. The Chief Justice Roberts, has confirmed the authenticity of the draft opinion, and he has stated that they are launching an investigation into it. Now, this was what, Monday? I mean, it was days ago. It was an eternity in the cycle of politics, and we still don't know who it is. There are suspicions as to who it is. I'm not going to say why they suspect that because I would implicitly be pointing the finger at someone there. I'm not going to say his name because, in my opinion, you actually are innocent until proven guilty. At the very least, until the investigation is done. They're not going to release any names. But if this had been Congress or the White House, FBI would have found out by the end of the day who leaked the documents. And it's been several days now, and we don't have a name. That's something. Anyway, so I posted this so that you could see the opinion yourself. That's the thing here. Let's get to the article finally. The Supreme Court has voted to strike down the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, according to an initial draft majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito, circulated inside the court and obtained by Politico. The draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision, which guaranteed federal constitutional protections of abortion rights, and a subsequent 1992 decision, Planned Parenthood v. Casey, that largely maintained the right. Quote, Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, end quote, Alito writes. A couple things here. First of all, the draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision. 100%. When this was being considered in the dark shadows of the Supreme Court that none of us are privy to, everybody on the right wing, the pro-life groups, the conservatives, the Republicans, that whole crowd, they said to themselves, and they said it all over the internet, and it's not inside baseball, everybody knows this, they said, well, at the very least, we'll get some ground, right? Maybe they'll ban abortion for like the second or third trimester, or maybe they'll go back to whatever week, or, maybe they'll do something. We'll have some kind of victory here. Nobody that I know expected that it would be a complete overturning of Roe v. Wade. That is just better than anybody could have predicted or hoped for. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, he writes. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Now, we don't talk about politics on this program. So let's talk about the law reflected through the prism of politics. Because I love Big Brother as much as the next guy, you know that. So please don't ban us from YouTube. Something you might not know. I was on JF's show last night. He was talking about how most people don't know that this woman called Roe, Jane Roe. It was not her real name. They used her. They used this anonymous name to protect her identity. She was recruited. The law firm that that prosecuted this and took this to the Supreme Court, this law firm recruited this woman. They had sent out advertisements, hey, to all women, any woman who wants to have an abortion but can't, contact us and we'll fight for you, right? Something to that effect. I didn't read the original advertisement, so don't quote me on that, but that is effectively what happened. She was recruited to be the face of this lawsuit. In 1984, like that statement, only the proles are free. I sometimes feel that way about non-lawyers because people really think that these things just happen, that these lawsuits, somebody's been wronged, and these lawyers are just in the right place at the right time, fighting for civil rights, and it's just this grand accident of history that this poor woman and this noble lawyer got together and fought for her rights and made it to the Supreme Court, and alakazam, the law was changed forever. That is not how it works. Have you ever seen that movie Speed Racer? I love that movie, by the Wachowski brothers, same guys that did The Matrix. Speed Racer was incredible. And possibly the best scene, certainly the pivotal scene in that movie, is when he's spoiler alert, if you want to watch Speed Racer, pause the program right now. He's meeting with the head of the company. And he says, look, he'd been given a couple days to think about the racing contract. And he comes back and he says, look, I can't accept your contract. I'm sorry. I have this sentimental attachment to racing. This one time when I was a kid, after my brother died, and my father and I, we were all depressed. And then one night we were watching this race, and this guy just pulled it off, and it was this happy moment, right? And he explains this whole story about this happy moment. And the head of the company laughs at him when he's done with this just heartwarming story that just, you want to hug the kid. It's so happy. He laughs with this sinister laugh, and he says, you poor fool. I'm going to tell you a real story about racing. And he talks about that same exact race from a completely different perspective. That race was fixed, and it was fixed in order to affect the stock market. And everybody thought that it was a real race, but really the guy had thrown it and was paid to throw the race. And so he's saying, now it's time, son, for you to grow up, put on your big boy pants, and you're going to be a real racer, and you're going to be part of this business, because that's what real racing is. Same thing is true. Behind the curtains, there are machinations you would not believe. One of them is Jane Roe, not her real name, being recruited by these activist lawyers to take this to the Supreme Court and legalize abortion. These lawyers allegedly, says Jane Roe herself, these lawyers told her, no, your story is not good enough. We're going to say you were gang raped. That's more gut-wrenching. It's more visceral. The court will really have a hard time saying that you don't deserve to have an abortion. You were gang raped. This child is the product of a gang rape. You have to have an abortion. By the way, Jane Roe never did get an abortion. She put the child up for adoption. She was later a born-again Christian. They don't tell you that. Just like Mary Wollstonecraft, they don't tell you that this pioneer in women's rights later became a housewife with children. Never wrote again. Certainly not on feminism. The reason I bring this up is that Roe v. Wade, this situation with the recruiters, the lawyers recruiting Jane Roe, telling her, no, you were gang raped. That's the story we're going with. That's not out of the ordinary. Pro-life activists, right-wingers, they might be enraged by that, but this is just how the legal profession works. Another case you might not know about. A black woman sitting on a bus, minding her own business. She's at the front of the bus. You can't sit at the front of the bus. You're a black woman. The evil white man driver gets up and tells this woman, you better get to the back of that bus. And she says no. This heroic, anonymous citizen of Gotham says, no, I will not move to the back of the bus. Next thing you know, it's in court. And they're ending segregation. And it just, what a happy accident of fate that this heroic woman, this nobody from nowhere, stood up to the evil white man. And the courts, in their magnanimity and majesty, saw her plight and said, you know what? Segregation is wrong. We were wrong. Of course, that's not at all what happened. Turns out Rosa Parks worked for the NAACP. Turns out that woman was riding buses all over town for days on end, sitting at the front of the bus, just dying for somebody to tell her to get to the back of the bus. This wasn't some systematic torture of black women on buses. This woman was looking for a fight. This is how these things go. There are activist groups out there that will deliberately provoke people into reacting so that they can challenge things. That's the real world, baby. It's not this poor, innocent woman on the way to see her grandson or go to the grocery store or whatever was being prosecuted, and some small town lawyer out of nowhere, felt bad for her and took her case and took it all the way to the Supreme Court and won. That's not at all how this happens. The recruitment of Roe, that is how these cases happen. So that's one political aspect of this. Of course, we don't talk about politics, and I'm not making any judgment on these activist lawyers recruiting women to go do these things. I'm not passing any judgment at all. I'm just saying, for your own edification, this is how these things come to pass. Let's talk about some more politics. Liberal group calls for protests at conservative Supreme Court justices' homes. I read this yesterday and I thought, is it Christmas? My God, what a wonderful headline. I'm going to read it again for you. This is Fox News. Liberal group calls for protests at conservative Supreme Court justices' homes. Group says they will visit the homes on May 11th. Why May 11th? What a weird date. Why a Wednesday in the middle of the week? What a strange thing. Well, let me tell you. Let's just type this in. Senator Schumer news. Let's see if he comes up in the news. Let's see if Chuck Schumer's up to anything right now. No, doesn't look like it. Oh, wait a minute. On May 11th, he's taking an abortion bill to the floor to completely obviate the opinion in that is overturning Roe v. Wade. How about that? On the same day that protests are called for at not all of the Supreme Court justices' homes. No. But the conservative Supreme Court justices' homes. Is that not fascinating? I find that fascinating. How do they even get their addresses? Supreme Court justices' addresses are not on file. They're not public. Anyway, this is the article. Left-wing activist groups are planning to send protesters to the homes of conservative Supreme Court justices following a leak indicating the court may soon overturn Roe v. Wade. The activists are organizing under the moniker Ruth Sent Us and have published the supposed home addresses of Justices Amy Coney Barrett, John Roberts, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch. Quote, our 6-3, because that's 6 people, if you weren't counting, our 6-3 extremist Supreme Court routinely issues rulings that hurt women, racial minorities, LGBTQ+, and immigrant rights. The group's website reads, we must rise up to force accountability using a diversity of tactics. Where have I heard that phrase before? A diversity of tactics. It's so familiar. It's almost like there's a group out there that was allowed to run rampant for years, terrorizing anybody that was right of Karl Marx. Regular old citizens, sitting politicians, judges getting rocks thrown through their windows, Florida citizens running for United States Senate, let's say. Fox News is told there has been a strong police presence at the justices' homes following the leak. The group says they will visit the homes on May 11th. The D.C. Police Department has erected fencing around the Supreme Court building in anticipation of escalating protests this weekend. Police have also activated protest response units through Sunday. Which is sad, because I'm going through D.C. this month, and last time I was there, I took my daughter and was going to show her the inside of the Supreme Court, because I'm obviously a member of the bar of the United States Supreme Court, and I want to show her the library and all this cool stuff. But no. COVID had the entire city of D.C. shut down. They had barricades around the Supreme Court building. And now that it looks like they're finally gone, well, now this is happening. So even as a member of the bar, you are not allowed in the Supreme Court building unless you have an active case that you are arguing that day. Just wild. This is democracy. I love democracy. God, I love it. The move comes after a draft copy of Justice Samuel Alito's opinion upholding a Mississippi abortion law leaked to Politico. The decision would overturn Roe v. Wade if adopted by 4 other justices. Chief Justice John Roberts described the leak as a betrayal of the court on Tuesday and ordered an investigation into the incident. Well, that's enough of the Fox News article. Let's go back to the main article, the Politico article, because this is where the whole story broke. This is like, was my first thought literally when I heard of this leak, but I'm not the first to say it on air. This is just like the New York Times publishing the Pentagon Papers, if you ask me. So let's go to this Politico article. And, I can't even be mad at Gerstein. Like, this is his job. He is a journalist. He got the hottest story of the new millennium so far. How are you going to tell this guy, well, that was horrible of you? Of course he's going to do that. That's his job. This is what journalists do. The question is, who gave it to him? Because if that guy is not prosecuted, Supreme Court might as well just close down. Because if they're going to let the mob do something like this and let saboteurs leak opinions that they don't like to the media so that the mob can stop them from coming out, Supreme Court might as well just hang up its guitar and shut its mouth. Anyway, deliberations on controversial cases have in the past been fluid. Justices can and sometimes do change their votes as draft opinions circulate, and major decisions can be subject to multiple drafts and vote trading, sometimes until just days before a decision is unveiled. The court's holding will not be final until it is published, likely in the next 2 months. Knowing that, Gerstein has published this article and published the draft opinion. You would have to be the most naive person in human history to think that this was leaked for any other reason than to affect that very process that Gerstein is talking about. Draft opinions circulate. Justices can and sometimes do change their votes as they circulate. These major decisions can be subject to multiple drafts and vote trading. How would that process be affected with mobs outside of the justices' homes? Schumer taking this to the floor to cancel the opinion before it even comes out. The media going insane about it. Actually, interestingly, I like this page in the opinion. Page 65, we do not pretend to know. This is Justice Samuel Alito saying in the opinion overturning Roe v. Wade. We, that is the Supreme Court, do not pretend to know how our political system or society will respond to today's decision overruling Roe and Casey. You know now, don't you? I reckon that paragraph will probably change. And even if we could foresee what will happen, he continues, We would have no authority to let that knowledge influence our decision. We can only do our job, which is to interpret the law, apply long-standing principles of stare decisis, and decide this case accordingly. Let's hope that that's true. Let's hope that this whole mob outcry will not influence the decision of the Supreme Court. My experience in politics has left me quite cynical, so I will believe it when I see it. This is the last paragraph in that section, section 4. We therefore hold that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. Roe and Casey must be overruled, and the authority to regulate abortion must be returned to the people and their elected representatives. Again, going back to Tucker Carlson's contention that this entire opinion is about democracy. How do you escape that? Back to Gerstein's article, the immediate impact of the ruling as drafted in February would be to end a half-century guarantee of federal constitutional protection of abortion rights and allow each state to decide whether to restrict or ban abortion. It's unclear if there would have been subsequent changes to the draft. God, let's unpack that one. A half-century guarantee of federal constitutional protection of abortion rights. Let's talk about that. Of course, the mob outcry right now is, oh, well, we're not arguing for abortion on demand. We're horrified that Becky, who was raped, can't have a legal abortion now. We're horrified that this girl who was the victim of incest and got pregnant, she can't have an abortion. Or this person who has medical complications, that girl can't get an abortion now. Her name is Jessica. How disingenuous, how outrageous that they would even pretend that anymore. You've seen it all the way up to this very week. Months preceding this, when Dobbs first came to the Supreme Court, everybody knew it was coming up for this. And you saw protest after protest, you saw article after article, social media post after social media post saying abortion is healthcare. Abortion is my right. It's not a right to healthcare. It's not a right to privacy. It's not any of these euphemisms that we've used for decades. It's I have the right to kill this fetus. I have the right to abortion. I have the right to have unprotected sex with whomever I want, and if I get impregnated by that interaction, I should be able to go murder this child. Because it's not even really a life. It's just a fetus. It's not even viable outside of my body. That's the real argument. We've seen that. They gloated about it. There are women that you can find in these interviews on the street that they posted on social media, and they're saying, I've had multiple abortions. I love abortion. You see this actress up there saying, I want to first of all thank the freedoms that I have in this country, because if it were not for my right to choose, I wouldn't be here accepting this reward right now. Because children just get in the way, don't they? That's the reality of it. And now we have these females coming out saying, I'm not concerned about my right to kill this child because I had, sex with some guy I didn't even know and got pregnant by it. It's not my irresponsibility I'm concerned about. It's Becky, who was raped. It's Jessica, who was the product of incest. There are people on the Twitter machine, maybe they're bots, I don't know. Maybe they're right-wing propagandists faking it. But there's one woman whose tweet has gone viral saying, I was the product of adultery. My mom had a one-night stand. She cheated. She could have had an abortion, and no one ever would have known. She would never have been found out, but she didn't do that. And I was born, and I'm glad I was. There was a response to that, a guy saying, yeah, I was the product of rape. It's amazing how all these people think that I would be better off dead. And in response to that, you have these liberals saying, well, I would be better off dead. I wish I was aborted. And really, that's what it comes down to, isn't it? These people who hate children so much hate their own lives. They wish they were aborted. So they think, well, everybody should have a right to it. It's psychopathy. It is a mental disorder. And we've been pretending for how long now that this is somehow a legal issue? That men can think they're women and cut off their genitals to become women, right? And now they can use the women's bathroom. And that's not a mental disorder. That's a legal issue. That's insane. And we can say, well, women have the right to healthcare privacy and they shouldn't have to tell their husband if they're getting an abortion, or these teenagers shouldn't have to tell their parents that they've been sleeping around and got pregnant. That has nothing to do with healthcare privacy. That's psychotic. That's insane. As Justice Alito rightly pointed out, there is a profound moral question involved in all of this. And if we're going to make laws on it, it should probably be up to the people to make laws about it. Now, what I love about this is everybody freaking out about what comes after this. Let's go to the ABA journal. The ABA is the American Bar Association. It's like where all the models of what it means to be a lawyer come from, and all the model ethical rules and model this, model that. And, you know, you can predict what side of the fence they're on. But I love this article here from the ABA journal from Wednesday. Legal experts fear loss of abortion right could usher in end of same-sex marriage, other rights. What a sad headline. Oh, even without articles in it, read so awkwardly, it's so sad. It makes you want to cry. Legal experts fear that the loss of abortion rights could usher in the end of same-sex marriage. Oh, God, say it ain't so. That would be awful. Let's read this article, should we? Because it's just so horrible. We want to look at it like a train wreck, right? Of course, God forbid that same-sex marriage end in America. So let's read the article and see what they're talking about. In the 2 days since Politico published a draft U.S. Supreme Court opinion that seems, so it was Monday, I was right, that seems to strike down Roe v. Wade, several legal experts have expressed concerns that the same reasoning that eliminates the right to abortion could also put other constitutional rights at risk. Now, they don't put constitutional in air quotes as they should. Constitutional rights, right? But let's move on. Conservative Justice Samuel Alito. Now, isn't that interesting? At the ABA Journal, the journal for lawyers, the American Bar Association, is not calling him Justice Samuel Alito or U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. They say conservative Justice Samuel Alito wrote in the 98-page draft opinion that the U.S. Constitution doesn't reference abortion, and the right to abortion is also not implicitly protected by any of its provisions, including the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. What do you think that all those Yankees would have thought in 1865, right? All these boys in blue, the Union boys, fighting the South for years. Just countless of their friends and brothers dying. And afterward, the government passes the 14th Amendment. And you find out that, 150 or so years later, they're going to say, well, actually, you guys fought that war so that women could have abortions on demand. That's what this 14th Amendment is for. And so that men can cut off their genitals and call themselves women and go into the women's bathroom, and vice versa. Women can put on prosthetic penises and think that they're men, and, it'll just be an awesome party. That's why you fought the Civil War. so that we could pass the 14th Amendment, and then we could say women can just murder their children left and right in this country. That's freedom. If you told those boys that, they'd have stayed home. I guarantee it. Quote, that provision has been held to guarantee some rights that are not mentioned by the Constitution. But any such right must be deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition, and implicit in the concept of ordered liberty, end quote. Alito said in the opinion for Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, a case that arose after Mississippi passed a law in 2018 that bans most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The right to abortion does not fall within this category, said Alito. Well, Lawrence Tribe, a constitutional law professor emeritus at Harvard University, argued in an opinion article in Boston Globe on Tuesday, as the day after this was leaked, that not many people will forget where they were when they heard about the draft opinion overturning Roe. Well, it's because it's a landmark thing, right? But there is more, Tribe added. After reading the draft, you quickly learn that all the rights people have long taken for granted, and again, rights is not an air quote, all the rights people have long taken for granted, like the rights to decide whom to marry, whether to use birth control, with whom to have sex, how to raise your children, and an endless list of other freedoms will no longer be protected unless you can point to language in the Constitution expressly guaranteeing those rights or convince 5 Supreme Court justices that they are deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition and, quote, implicit in the concept of ordered liberty, end quote. In other words, with the reasoning overturning Roe v. Wade and saying abortion is not a right, it's not in the Constitution, this was wrong all along, and we've been arguing about it for decades with this is ridiculous. Well, if that's the case, what about sodomy laws? What about gay marriage? What about the use of birth control? These are quote-unquote rights that the federal government has shoved down everyone's throat for decades. What about segregation? Could that go back to the states? That, of course, precedes Roe v. Wade. But on that reasoning, wouldn't Brown v. Board of Education be overturned? That's what everybody's freaking out about right now. The Supreme Court has outright said, we wrongly arrogated this authority. This authority rests in the people. It's not for us to just make up laws and make up constitutional rights that don't exist. If people want to prohibit abortion in their states, they should be allowed to. Well, Erwin Chemerinsky, getting back to the ABA Journal article, dean of the University of California at Berkeley School of Law, wrote that the legal implications of overturning Roe will be enormous. He also contended that following Alito's reasoning means that many Supreme Court decisions protecting basic aspects of privacy and autonomy were wrong. One of those is Griswold v. Connecticut, which you will learn your first year of law school. They will make sure you know about Griswold v. Connecticut, a 1965 case in which the Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution protected the right of marital privacy against state restrictions on contraception. Chemerinsky pointed out that this is similarly a right not mentioned in the Constitution, contemplated when the document was ratified or historically protected. In Griswold v. Connecticut had banned contraception, so you couldn't get birth control, and these people were like, well, the state doesn't have any right to tell us what to do. We're a married couple. We should be able to use contraception. Now, of course, obviously that has completely exploded. The original reasoning for that is just right out the window. A married couple, yeah, that's a good faith argument. A married couple saying the state shouldn't be telling us what we should do in our bedroom. You know what? Catholic or not, I would agree with that for the most part. You can't really argue about that, right? That's good faith argument. Maybe you can argue it, but I think that's made in good faith. But when you use that, it's like when you use that saying, well, the state can't tell married couples what to do, and then it turns out, well, actually, I just want to use birth control so I could have sex with everybody in the club and not get pregnant or an STD. Well, then that reasoning you've admitted is a complete lie. It has nothing to do with why you really want birth control. Just like when you say, I only want abortion to be legal so that Becky, who was raped, can have an abortion and move on with her life. Outrageous. That's not why you want abortion to be on demand. That's not why you want it to be legal. And you know what? I, even as an anti-abortion person in the past, as liberal as I ever was, as libertine as I ever was, abortion is still murder. And back then I would think, well, I guess it does make sense, if you're going to outlaw abortion, maybe you should have exceptions for rape and incest. I mean, those are really horrific conditions, and you wouldn't want that child brought up in those. No. Because that leads to an even darker future. Picture this, if you will. This opinion really does come out, and it is decided, and it is now the law of the land. Abortion can be outlawed by the states. Automatically, between 30 and 40 states are going to pass abortion laws, and abortion will be illegal in all but maybe 10 states. 20 tops. In those remaining 30 to 40 states where abortion is outlawed, let's say you have an exception that says, if you were raped, you are allowed to have an abortion. What do you think is going to happen? Every single woman who wants to have an abortion is going to go in there and say, I was raped. I want to report a crime. And they're going to falsely accuse John and Josh and Jeff and whoever else they slept with. They all raped me. Everybody, I don't know who the father is, but they all raped me. Everybody raped me. Every single woman who wants an abortion is going to go in and say, I was raped. Like we don't have an epidemic of false allegations of rape right now. Imagine what happens when you ban abortion and say your one way out, the one way you can have an abortion is if you accuse a man of rape. Do you think for a second that they're not going to take you up on that? It's going to be madness. So, no, at this point, no. It is murder. There is no exception. And praise God for Justice Alito. And it's like the day Donald Trump won the election. Not that I care about politics. I'm not voting for anybody. I love Big Brother. Whoever wins, it's a free and fair election. I love it. I love whoever wins. But the day after Donald Trump won, to hear all of these lunatic liberals crying on NPR, screaming and wailing all over the radio that day, it was music to my ears. And the day that this opinion comes out and the mob did not stop it, when it becomes the law of the land, we are going to hear a wailing and a gnashing of teeth unlike anything we have heard in our lifetimes, and it will be the most beautiful sound we have ever heard. Now, you might be one of those people, like a good friend of mine, who says, I'm not anti-abortion. I'm anti-abortion within my own tribe. Because if you think about it, why would we want these lunatics having kids? If you are the type of human being that wants to murder your own child, you should not have children. I think that's a fair response, personally. And it's hard to argue against that, except for the fact that it's not the kid's fault. From an evolutionary perspective, cold-blooded and predatory, yes, it is advantageous to us as sane people that Insane people should not propagate their genes. I agree. But from a moral perspective, that argument cannot stand. So, let's go back to the chat. This has been a while. We've been reading articles here. And we've got 8 minutes, and I think the outro song is like 5 minutes, so I've got a hard cutoff at 1600 today. Hope your weekend is good, Augustus, says Jay Knott. Well, back at you. My weekend's going to be awesome. Greetings from Detroit from Mr. Frank. Thank you. Greetings from Orlando, friend. What are the chances they change their opinion, asks Royal. Now that is an excellent question. That is the $1 million question on everybody's mind right now. Because I'm going to go back to the opinion itself that was leaked. I believe it's page 67. Why would my computer reset it to page 1? Please visit Viral Style and buy like 700 t-shirts so that I can buy a new computer, because this thing drives me nuts. No, 67 is the end of the opinion, so I think it's 65. We do not pretend to know how our political system or society will respond to today's decision overruling Roe v. Wade and Casey. And even if we could foresee what will happen, we would have no authority to let that knowledge influence our decision. Well, now they know, don't they, Mr. Royal? They know full well what the reaction is going to be. They've seen it. They've got cops at their houses because of it. Will they let that change their opinion? That's what everybody's waiting to find out. That's what all of these, mostly peaceful protesters are hoping to influence. That's what Chuck Schumer is hoping to influence. That's what the media is hoping to influence. They're saying, let's make so much noise, so much terror, that this opinion will not stand. At least one of those justices has to change their vote. Maybe they'll change the language of the opinion itself. Something will water this down or make them change their minds. Will they stand by it? I'm pretty sure Alito, Roberts, Coney Barrett, Thomas, maybe not Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh's a pretty Irish name, right? Gorsuch, I don't know. But at the very least, 4 of those 6 are Catholic. They're not changing their mind. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like the Politico article said, it could be 2 months before it comes out, but maybe this will accelerate them to say, you know what, we're overturning this. And by the way, we're also overturning Griswold, and we're overturning gay marriage, and we're overturning segregation. We're just going to overturn everything. Because we're not going to let the mob tell us what to do, and we thought we'd do things incrementally, but you know what? We're overruling everything today. That would be a dream come true, right? Not that I'm arguing for desegregation or segregation. God forbid. So don't put words in my mouth, SPLC, and don't get us banned from YouTube. I'm saying that it would be awesome if the Supreme Court put decisions back in the hands of the American people instead of just making up rights in the Constitution and saying 14th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 14th Amendment. Of course, the Founding Fathers couldn't have known about this. 14th Amendment, we're just going to make up these rights, and now they're long-standing American tradition. Nah. Let's throw it all out. Let it burn. Could hurt Republicans a lot in 2022. They will do everything to win. Maybe. All this bad law could fall away, says No Name, if Roe gets overturned. The Dems are going to go wild and start screaming to prevent this. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing right now, No Name. I think this is the start of a new summer of rage like 2020, but worse. Oh, let it rain. Let it rain. Greetings from Boston, says Anabolic Insurrection. Love the name. Love Boston. And greetings from Orlando, buddy. Very cool. Love is everything, says Invictus. You are a mighty work of God. Keep letting his word work in you, brother. Well, thank you. I'm humbled by your comment. Thank you. MW2Freak7, I don't know what that means. I hope it's family friendly. Hey there, Augustus. Every year, more of our guys are becoming attorneys. You are part of that reason. Really? You made my day. Both you and Love is Everything have made my day today. What a great day. What a positive day. It's like every day this week is Christmas since this draft opinion leaked. Every day just gets better and better. You inspire people. Keep at it, brother. Well, thank you very much. That is awesome. I'm not going to read that comment. As a member of the Bar of the United States Supreme Court, I'm not going to say anything denigrating of the justices. So, God bless Augustus. Great show this week. Thank you, Mr. Royal. And I guess that will do it for us. We are over time, and I've got to get my son to adoration. So we've spent the entire day today talking about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I reckon all of the articles I'm not talking about today, we're going to talk about next week. Big news all over the place. We'll get to it. Until then, guys, you stay classy.